So, taking everything to account, what we've heard, the best football club in Portugal is. Bom dia, gente. This is Frederick from Porto, Portugal. We already talked about one of the three F's in Portugal, which is Fado. I don't know if we ever will make a video about Fatima. I'm not such a religious person, but this time we will talk about something very important in Portugal. We will talk about football. So, in Portugal, and this is important to know, football is not just sports, it's a religion. People love football, they're fanatic about it and don't just joke about it. I think you can rather sleep with a man's wife or woman than insult his football club. I mean, you would probably also get in trouble with the other one. People are very fanatic. You have an international Clásico, national Clásico, which is Benfica Porto. You have two local Clásicos, which is Benfica Sporting in Lisbon, and a small Clásico, Porto and Boavista, a club that is also from Porto. So the Primeira Liga, it's called Primeira Liga, but they usually come with a sponsor. I will not repeat the sponsor here because I don't even like the business that they're in. The league was founded, it's one of the oldest that we have in Europe, in 1934. It consists of 18 teams, which I think it's quite a lot for a small country like Portugal, but it doesn't matter. Very enthusiastic football country, so they probably could cope with other numbers, for example 25. There have been already 20 teams, 14 teams. Let's see what happens in the future. They're currently ranked on number 7 in the UEFA ranking, which gives them 5 spots in the international European championships. Something that is original in Portugal, or something that you don't find in other championships, they have 2 cups, Taça da Liga and Taça de Portugal. In other countries, you usually have 1 cup competition. In Portugal, you have 2. Even although it's a small country, they have space and time for 2 cups. Portuguese are very fanatics about football. The Portuguese clubs are not so competitive on an international level. Benfica, I think, has won the Champions League, the former Cup of the Champions, in the 60s 2 times. Porto has the more recent successes. In 2003, they won the Taça UEFA, the UEFA Cup, and in 2004 they also won the Champions League, but since 20 years, they haven't won something on the club level, so that's kind of sad. They always compete, the big clubs always compete, I think, quite well, but unfortunately they're not so successful on an international level. The Portuguese Championship is dominated by the big 3, os três grandes, which is Benfica from Lisbon, Sporting from Lisbon, and the FC Porto from Porto. It sounds a bit boring. I think you can already count a little bit Braga also into the big club group. I've heard that there's a sponsors, maybe a bigger sponsor. So let's see. Maybe there's some money pouring in. At least they always compete in the first 4 places. Bigger leagues usually are dominated by 1 team and maybe 2 teams. You have by nature 3 teams in Portugal, but when you see the last couple of years, the championships changed quite a lot between the teams. So there will never be more than maybe 3-4 teams that really have a potential chance to win the championships. There's always a surprising team that maybe gets to UEFA, but still, if you compare it in reality to other leagues, I think the championship in Portugal, it's very exciting because you have 3 teams that compete for the championship, not just 1 or 2. Which is the most successful team in Portugal? And this will already maybe cause some argumentation, because of the history and some dictatorship that maybe had an influence. I don't know. If you have an opinion about it, please leave it in the comments. But currently, officially, Benfica has 38 championships, Porto has 30, and Sporting has 20 championships, which makes officially Benfica currently the most successful country in Portugal. Portuguese Liga is known for excellent scouting skills. They scout very well in South America, in Brazil, and other Latin countries. Di Maria, Ulk, please name other players. Benfica is leading the list of sales to other clubs. Pretty sure also FC Porto reached it over a billion. Benfica for sure has over a billion already in sales. So they buy them cheap and sell them quite well in the international markets. And the big question is, the clubs are always broke, or at least they're always in financial problems. I don't know. If you have an explanation, please leave it in the comments. But anyway, they do a great job importing and scouting talents in the world, and especially in South America. Knowledge of football is very high in Portugal. There are a lot of newspapers. There's a radio, Golo FM, which you can also listen to if you speak Portuguese, but they bring a lot of news about football. There are 3 newspapers, A Bola, O Golo, and O Record. They come on a daily basis, have a lot of news about football, the league of course, but also international news and so on. So if you're from Europe and you think they don't know anything about the French, the German, the English league, don't try to argue with them. A lot of people have very profound knowledge, which is great because you can always engage in a very profound football discussion with a Portuguese. So, some interesting facts about the Portuguese Liga that maybe you don't know. The first one is the Benfica mascot is an eagle, and I think it's kind of cool. They let the eagle fly through the stadium, which I think it's very nice to see. It's a cool gesture. Must be very well trained. I'm not aware that anywhere else they have something like this or something equal. If you know it, please leave it in the comments. In Braga, I already went to Braga. It's kind of weird. I haven't seen this in other countries. There's a stadium, or their stadium in Braga has one of the sides is a stone wall. They constructed the stadium close to a little mountain. I think maybe it has to do with statics, that they cannot really put spectators there or don't want to construct their seatings. So if you know it, please leave it in the comments. But I think it's kind of weird. It's kind of cool though to see. On the other side, it's kind of weird for the atmosphere. The championship in Portugal is basically composed of 3 teams, and this is also reflected in the Champions League. Only 5 teams have won the Portuguese championship, which is Benfica, Porto, and Sporting, Belenenses, and also Boa Vista. Cristiano Ronaldo is very associated with Portugal. If you talk about Portugal on an international level, people always talk about Ronaldo. But if you talk with Portuguese about the league, they don't really talk about Cristiano Ronaldo. Why is that? Because he only played a very short period of time with Sporting in the league. He only scored 5 goals out of his 916 goals. So very small percentage. Most people don't know this. And there's a cute story. There's a player called Pedro Mantores from Angola, currently 42 years old. He's very associated with the Benfica club. I don't know if you know it. Please leave it in the comments. But he was so liked in the club that they kept on paying his salary. So until he dies, which is hopefully in many years, they will pay his salary until the end. So what are the biggest stadiums in Portugal? You have 3 big stadiums associated with the biggest teams, of course. The biggest stadium is from Lisbon, the Estádio de Luz from Benfica, which has 65,592 in terms of capacity. Then you have the second one is also in Lisbon. What's happening here? FC Porto with 50,095, the Estádio José Alvalade. And then you have the Estádio do Dragão in Porto with also 50,033 seats. They could have constructed some more just to... it's also interesting, they have the Estádio Nacional, which is only for the Taça, for the cup. It's always a big event when the cup is played there. But I think it's also something very peculiar about the league because they have one stadium only for the cup. So let's talk about players. Let's make it more interesting. Goals and trainers. Which were the biggest victories, best goals, most beautiful goals, most decisive goals. I did some interviews with around 15 people. I tried to mix it within the 3 clubs. So I will give you some suggestions, also my opinion. If you have a different opinion, please leave them in the comments. So in terms of best coaches, national coaches, most people, if you concluded, they all talked about Jose Mourinho and Jorge Jesus. You can guess where they're from, which club, or who supported which trainer. What do you think? Are there any other options? I think it's a good choice, the 2. Which one do you think was the best trainer in the Portuguese league ever? What's your opinion? Please leave it in the comments. So let's talk about the most beautiful goals in the Portuguese league or Portuguese football. When I asked people, I left it kind of open. Very funny, nobody talked about either. They won the European Champions League in 2016, the biggest win, the biggest triumph the Portuguese football celebrates so far. Also, Porto fans didn't really talk about the Champions League goals they scored in the finals in 2004. And if you talk about somebody in Portugal about the decisive or beautiful goal, they always talk about the goals they scored against the other team that they hate in the league. In terms of most beautiful goals, and that's also my opinion, I think Matic in 2012, 2013, a very beautiful goal. I've never seen a goal so beautiful like this. If you have a different opinion in terms of beautiful goals, please leave it in the comments. I think in terms of, and this will hurt dear Benfica fans, in terms of decisiveness, Calvin, the overtime goal 2-1 against Benfica, scored from Porto, that put Jesus to his knees. But it looks very, if you see the pictures, you can really feel the drama, the emotion, the disappointment. Also, poor Jesus in the pictures. But I think that's, for me, the most decisive goals that was celebrated ever in the Portuguese league. If you have a different opinion, please also leave it in the comments. I think a good compromise in terms of beautifulness and maybe decisiveness, not complete decisiveness, is the goal from Magia in the final from FC Porto against Munich. Also a very beautiful goal that you really have to score in the final. So these were my 3 proposals. Again, if you have a different opinion, please leave them in the comments. In terms of the big victories that the club celebrated, in terms of FC Porto, of course, everybody was talking about the 2-1 against Benfica. They also mentioned a 5-0 in 2010 against Benfica. Also, of course, the Champions League win in 2004. Which one do you think is the biggest victory of the FC Porto? Please leave it in the comments. Benfica, they talk about the 2005 win 1-0 against Sporting, or 2006 when they won in Liverpool 2-0. Which, if you're a Benfica fan, do you agree or do you have a different opinion? In terms of Sporting, I didn't really get a clear answer. They couldn't really decide on something. If you're a Sporting fan, please enlighten us. Which do you think was the biggest victory that Sporting had in the Portuguese league or as a club? In terms of worst losses, 3 proposals, maybe by each team. When you're a Benfica fan, you probably don't get around that 1-2 loss against FC Porto. Very hurtful. Even when you see the pictures, you can feel the drama, you can feel the disappointment. Jorge Jesus, when he fell on his knees, big drama. When you are an FC Porto fan, probably Wrexham, they didn't really lose. They won 4-3, but Wrexham was a team from the 4th division and they got eliminated by a team from the 4th English division. They lost the first game 1-2. So that was kind of brutal, I think, or at least when you talk to FC Porto fans, it's still in the memories. In terms of sporting, most of them think about international losses. They recently lost 1-5 against Ajax or a 5-0 against Munich in the Champions League competition, which is kind of hurtful because champions play against each other, and of course that hurts. If you have other opinions, please leave them in the comments. What you think are the most hurtful losses of a Portuguese team. So I also asked the people who is the most successful, most famous, the best player of the Portuguese league. You get a lot of answer. Of course, there always is the club filter. If you talk to a Benfica fan, they only give you Benfica names. If it's a Sporting fan, well, Sporting, I think they're more inclined to give a more neutral answer. Of course, FC Porto, only FC Porto player. But so here are some proposals. Benfica, Eusebio, Aimar, Rui Costa, Di Maria. If you have a different opinion, please leave it in the comments. You have FC Porto, Deco, Fernando Gomes, Falcao, Vitor Bahia, which is a goalkeeper, and Olk. And Sporting, you have Luis Figo, Bruno Fernandes, Jadel, and Beto Acosta. If you have a different opinion, or at least these were the answers from the fans that they gave. If you have a different opinion, please leave them in the comments, and we're happy to discuss it. So, taking everything to account, what we've heard, the best football club in Portugal is, I have no idea. That's something you have to make up by yourself. I'm pretty sure many people that watch the video already have their favorite club. It's something, or it's a German saying, you can love many people in your life, woman, man, whoever, but you can only love one football club. My club, for example, it's Hamburg, nur der HSV. I will never have another club in my life, even if they play in the 3rd and 4th division. They already make to the 2nd division. Doesn't matter. I will always love them. People that fall in love with their club in Portugal will always love them. So if you're not from Europe and maybe you experience football for the first time, go to a stadium and check it out, and maybe you fall in love yourself. Okay, I hope you liked the video. If you liked it, please follow us and give us a thumb up. If you have an opinion about the video, please leave them in the comments. And don't forget, stop surviving, start living. See you in Portugal.